For December the 2nd, 2022, we talk about Pokemon Scarlet, the case of the Golden Idol, Atari 50, and much more. Welcome to Level 437. My name is Kole Ross.
I'm David Maismith.
I'm Jala Prendes.
And I'm Ben Merkel.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. Jala, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's been a long time.
Yeah, we're really happy to have you back. I'll say it again. Sorry we missed last week. Thanksgiving and stuff. So November always gets a little bit rocky. Jala, how you doing? What you up to?
Well, I will say this. I stole Dennis last week, and I did an episode on my show, Jala-chan's Place, about Dennis's game. So Deck of Wonders. It's an episode all about that, and it came out last Saturday. So, Jala-chan.place to go check that out and listen in depth about the ins and outs of the entire story.
Yeah.
So, as for me, I have been in integration work hell. So, my company was bought out by a larger company, and then they dragged their feet for a long time on and tried to figure out how in the world they were going to integrate us, because we had our own proprietary systems. So they had to build bridges and all this other IT stuff in order to get it to where we could be integrated. And so they finally did that, but then that means that everything is a trash fire, and a lot of stuff didn't get migrated properly and didn't get migrated at all. And I'm training a new guy, and we were in training for 2 weeks straight, and then all the agents are screaming because nobody's there working. So it's been hell. And so it's been real rough. And this whole year has been rough. We were talking in the green room, and I was like, I think I've been on the show maybe 5 times this year.
It has to be more than that.
Not intentionally, just not being here, but I have had very little time for most of this year because of so much drama. So I'm ready to be past all of that now.
Yeah.
But in the plus side, though, I have been hitting a lot of PRs at the gym, personal records, and I have been beating all of my old numbers. I started back in on doing training in September, and it took about a month and a half maybe of me working on a lot of accessory work and things like that to just generally get my strength up and get, connective tissues and stuff reacclimated to training. And at this point, I've been breaking solidly and I'm still, every time I go into the gym, even when I don't feel good, I am still lifting heavier than I was the last time. So I keep on increasing the weights. So, that's me. So right now I'm pretty thick. I will not be cutting until after I hit a plateau on the strength gains. So, if you see photos of me from anywhere, you will just see a gigantic arm, probably. So that would be, I've sized out of a lot of jackets and shirts, and it's not that the body fits differently. It's that my shoulders are too big and my arms are too big because I have some big guns. So
yeah, I mean, the pain is real with the shoulders.
Yeah.
I say that as a broad-shouldered gentleman. Just some stuff doesn't fit right if your shoulders
and especially if it's women's clothes, because for anything, if it fits my arms, it's so baggy on my body it looks like a potato sack, except my arms are about to bust out of it. So it's I'm gonna Hulk out of any shirt that I wear, and it's just I only just recently found a t-shirt brand that I like that actually has a slim fit in the body but big enough arms that they don't look like bell sleeves or anything, but they are big enough to fit the guns. So and broad enough in the shoulders, and I'm okay, I'm good now.
Having the option to Hulk out is better than not.
Yeah.
It's kind of like why I wear tearaway basketball training pants. you know, so that way it's just, you know, just there you go. You're ready to ready to play. Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
So how's everybody else doing?
Yeah. David, how about you?
Oh, honestly, I'm doing fine. Not really too much of note one way or the other. Went back home for I almost said Halloween. That holiday. No, went back home for Thanksgiving, so that was good. And honestly, that's been about it.
Did you get to do anything like up around Mansfield that you'd been wanting to do for a while, or is the answer there is nothing you want to do around Mansfield?
Not honestly, not anything too much with that. I mean, I did get to see some family members I hadn't seen in a long time.
Oh, cool.
So that was kind of cool.
Nice.
But yeah, no. Other than that, nah.
Cool. Ben, how about you?
Yeah, I had Thanksgiving with some old coworkers from Konami in Washington, and then I went down to Portland for the weekend and had a surprise second Thanksgiving on Friday, and I showed my friends the movie The Place Beyond the Pines.
I don't know what that movie is.
It's directed by Derek Cianfrance, the guy who did Blue Valentine, and it is a good narrative movie. So, yeah.
Is it also one of the hardest movies to watch?
No, it is comparatively much lighter than Blue Valentine.
Lighter fare, yeah.
While still being a very emotionally heavy movie, it more speaks to how heavy Blue Valentine is. But
yeah,
yeah,
nice. Yeah, I had just kind of the standard Thanksgiving over here. That was fine. A movie that I've been talking about forever came out last week, so I want to tell people go watch Something in the Dirt. It's real good. Yeah. That came out on video on demand, and I had gone to see it in the theater a couple of weeks ago, so that was exciting to get to see a Benson and Moorhead movie in the theater, which was cool. Mm-hmm. But now it's available. It is no longer just this mythical festival thing that I have to assure you actually does exist. Oh, the other cool thing: the day after Thanksgiving, get a call from an old high school friend. Who was up in town for Thanksgiving, and they were out with their family cleaning out their storage barn, kind of thing.
As you do,
it's a big barn. The loft it's just a bunch of stuff. It's a big family. David, this is the Neffs.
Okay, yeah,
yes, yeah, the barn. But they said, yeah, we found all this old video game stuff. We were just going to run to Goodwill, but we were figured, oh, you have this video game thing you do you want them? And so I went over and got to see them because it had been forever since I'd seen them, but also I got a hold of an Atari 2600, 7800, a ColecoVision, a bunch of games for all of it.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that'll be a project for me, is getting those cleaned up and seeing if they work. It's like a whole trunk full of very, very old video game stuff.
Well, then you're going to have to tell me, or you're going to have to hunt down a copy of Wizards of War, WOR, because that's that first game that I can ever remember playing, which was going to be on my multiplayer response. Spoiler. But anyway, Greg, aka Soul Blazer, helped me figure out what that game was. Because he's like a master of finding the stuff about the old games.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's an Atari game, and that's like the very first memory I have of playing a game was that one.
It might be out there. It might be out there. So if I manage to get it working, I'll send you a video of it.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. So that was cool. A little bit of an unexpected find. Yeah. And of course, playing games and stuff like that. And maybe that old game stuff will play into, what I'm going to talk about on the grind, maybe a little bit, maybe, possibly.
Ooh.
Yeah. So why don't we do the regular kind of show, what with the grind, the multiplayer, and the boss, and get started with
the grind.
The Grind, where we talk about the games we have been playing over the past period of time or so. Jala, I will throw it to you first, since it has been a minute.
Okay, well, the two things that I have played in recent memory are two big games that came out recently on Switch, because like I pre-ordered both of them. So Persona 5 Royal, that's the first one that I was playing. It was originally released in October of 2019, but as I mentioned just now, I have it on Switch, so I got that fairly recently. And I was really looking forward to this game, but let me say, man, is it taking a sweet time to get anywhere. Like, I know that Persona 4 Golden was like this, but I was at least interested in the characters I was presented with. But having played that, this one seems a lot less interesting. Like, the characters seem like boring palette swaps of everybody from 4. Like, kanji equivalent is also a blonde guy who's a delinquent, and so on. And it's like, oh, please, really? And then like the Rise clone has the pigtails, and it's like, oh, like they even look alike. This is so boring. And it's like I'm so far removed from high school that I'm just like lurking in this high school, listening about everybody complain about the PE teacher is just like it's sending me into a void, and I'm like, I don't know. So I have played about 10 hours or so, which I know to everybody else who's been playing this is like, that's not enough to get into. I know, I haven't even finished the first dungeon.
Much time.
But 10 hours, like, you know how many indie games I could have finished in 10 hours time? Like, I could at least finish 3 or 4.
10 hours is like as a season of some television shows.
I know. So, and I can't say that anything that I've seen so far has interested me at all. Like, people are like, oh, well, it plays with, can they be using this power? You know, should they be using this because of these repercussions and this, that, and the other? And I'm like, it actually sent me on a whole tangent, because I was like, some of the themes that are in this are themes that are already presented from an anime that I watched a long, long time ago that is probably my favorite anime series, The Violinist of Hamelin. And I promise there is another video game thing in here. Let me get to it. So The Violinist of Hamelin came out in the mid-90s, and I watched fan subs of it because it never came to the US. And anyway, as a result of talking about this with some friends and, you know, complaining about Persona 5 Royal, I ended up going and rewatching some of the first few episodes of Violinist of Hamelin because I haven't seen that in a very long time. Well, when I was doing that, Dave was watching it with me, and he's like, I betcha Miyazaki was watching this right before he made Demon Souls, because there are so many visual analogs to stuff that's in Demon Souls and Dark Souls that is in this series that I'm watching right now with you. Just like in the first couple of episodes, there's just like a lot of visual stuff that's going on, because it's a dark fantasy series, and you know, like it's tonally, it's really grim, but it's also very introspective and cool. So
this isn't the boxing game, right?
No.
Isn't there like a Persona boxing game?
That is not boxing, it's a fighting game theoretically, but it's also mostly visual novel. Persona 4 or Persona, is it Persona 4 Arena, or I think it's called? I have it. I played some of it. I got mad at that too, but I didn't play. I only got to like one fight, and I was like, they didn't even give me like the one time they didn't give me a tutorial is they just drop you in the fight, and they're like, okay, have fun. And it's like, what? So anyway.
Persona 4 fighting all night. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, Persona 5 Royal has mostly been a visual novel. But with the pacing of a JRPG, which is like goddamn nightmarish, because like a visual novel with the pacing of a JRPG that goes like for 100 and some odd hours is terrible. Why did they do this? So I'm not actually sure if I will continue playing this game, to be quite honest, because it's like it's a time drain, and it's a time drain that's not particularly fun. So like, well, I don't know.
If it hasn't made its case in 10 hours, because I mean,
it hasn't even started yet. Anywhere. We're still in the intro, I feel like. So
but it's like, I mean, I don't know. Persona 4, you know, had two things going for it. It was like that small town kind of quirky vibe to it was neat. More so to me than any of the city stuff in 3. you know, from the little bit that I tried. And also, like, I don't know, say what you will, the fact that it was built around murder mysteries is super cool. And I get the thematic resonance of the adults, you know, abusing their power over the kids, and the kids worrying about like what their place in the world is going to be. I get that is thematically resonant, but also that needs to grow, as opposed to, oh, this person died in a super messed up way, we need to go in there and make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Well, and then too, you know that I'm a sucker for like a detective thing or noir thing. Like I love detective and noir stuff, generally speaking. And like, that's just like a thing about me and my preferences. So I'm much more interested in that than whatever this game is handing me right now. So, and then like the thing is that it starts with this really neat little animated intro that makes me think like, okay, well, this looks different, you know, because they're all phantom thieves or whatever. And then I got dropped into like just this typical high school drama crap, and I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, I know there's more going on than just that, you know, but at the same time, the stuff that they're presenting just is not hitting the notes for me. So I don't know, man. I mean, like if you tell me I have to wait till hour 40 to get to it, that's a big ask. That's a full work week. Do you know how much money I could be making in that time that I'm sitting here playing this video game? You know,
well, I mean, let alone like there are other better games.
Yeah,
like,
So,
you know, not better games, other games that make a more compelling case right away for why they're gonna be a good use of your time.
Yeah. And so I don't know. Maybe I'll sit on it because you know there are times that I've gone back to a thing and been like, you know, it's fine.
There's a latency period.
So it might just be that right now I don't have the tolerance for it, but at a later date I may. So I don't know, I might circle back to that. But that's all I've got to say about Persona 5 Royal at this juncture. Any questions?
I kind of feel like life is too short for, you know, fine games.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like if you're not having fun with it, then what's the point? You know, if you know, like if you play your, you know, 30 minutes or 10 hours or whatever you played and you haven't made a dent in the game, however, that's as much of that game as you want, why don't you just set it down and move on? Do you know how much backlog you and everyone else has? Like, you know, there's so many other games in your backlog that you probably like better.
I've given up. That backlog is now unincorporated territory. It's just Wildlands.
Speaking of Wildlands, so the second game that I've been playing is Pokemon Scarlet, where you walk around in the trees and the grasses and stuff and go get the Pokemons.
I want to hear about this.
Okay.
You know, I'm not even going to tell you the direction that I've heard about this. I want to hear.
Oh no, it's fine. I pre-ordered this one, and I played some on release day, even, which for me is hard to do because usually I have like, you know, type schedule.
Yeah.
But it hasn't bugged out on me. But other people have been reporting glitches and game crashes and losses of saved data, among other problems like that.
Right.
And this game is also abysmally slow at times, like when it's trying to load into different areas. So it's like, oh, that's not cool.
Yeah.
And it's also not as pretty as Sword and Shield. And they made a really poor decision of making all the Pokemon their actual size, which means that very, very often you will be wandering around and little tiny pocket persons, like little bugs and stuff, will be in the grass and you can't see them. And you end up running into them and have to battle them. And so it's basically like random encounters because like you only see some of the Pokemon if they're big enough.
You can't see the Weedle in the weeds.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it does open up a lot faster than Sword and Shield. It dumps you into choosing between going to all of the gyms to become the champion trainer. You can fight to take down Team Star, which is the Team Rocket analog, and they have little badges after you beat each one for no particular reason. And then you can also seek out Titans that are guarding magical herbs that are powering up your motorcycle guy, which is basically the main critter on the box art. And so you have different routes. And like when you power up the motorcycle, then that gives it extra abilities. Like you can, you know, speed, you can use like a jet boost, you can go over water, you can jump extra high. And that allows you to get to different areas of the map you couldn't before. So
if the game will load them.
Yeah, if the game will load them. So getting the Titans is important for that reason. Of course, the gym is what allows you to catch and command Pokemon of higher levels, so that's required for that reason. Team Star, I can't really say is worth it for anything in particular. You get TMs, which can give different abilities to your Pokemon by beating the Team Star people. Otherwise, I don't know what else that really does for you.
Yeah.
So, but
is it still the turn-based combat? Like you have the 4 abilities and you select them and then they go back and forth?
yes, but also in this one, you can send out your lead pocket person to go do battle with critters in the environment and to pick up items for you.
Oh, okay.
So this gives you a reduced amount of experience from actually fighting the battle, but it is a way to get experience without having to go through as many battles. Like if I go through a battle, I might get like somewhere between 200 to 400 experience, depending upon the difference between levels in my Pokemon and the one that I'm fighting. But like if I'm just running around in the environment and my little critter does it, then I might get like 87 for my lead guy and then like 40 for everybody else, because everybody else in your party of 6 that is not your lead will get experience, but at a half rate. So, anyway, it does speed up leveling to a certain degree, but if your Pokemon comes up against something that it is weak to and it cannot beat, or it's, too low a level to beat it, its hit points reduce and then it runs away and it comes to you. Also, there are Pokemon that are just like, I am not a fighter and I do not want to go over there and fight that thing. Like I have Fluffy, which is like a sheep Pokemon, and my Fluffy is like level 30, but it's coming up against a level 15 thing, but it refuses to fight anything. Anything in the environment. It will not go because it's just a sheepish Pokemon.
Okay.
Bah, 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 bah.
Yeah, it's terrible. I winced internally when I said it, actually.
Okay.
But
I just put it together. But okay, there we go.
well, you see, if Dennis were here, he would have said the stupid thing, and then I would have cringed and facepalmed. So it's in the spirit of Dennis because he's somewhere on a boat.
On a boat.
Mm-hmm.
We hope we find him again someday.
Right. I don't know how I got that boat down in the cistern, but anyway, so as in Sword and Shield, there is an equivalent of Gigantamaxing your pocket persons, and this one is called Terastalizing, and basically your critter turns into a crystal and gains a funny hat that potentially gives them a different affinity. Like you might have a grass guy and his secondary type is psychic, but then you might have a terastalized affinity of fire, so that changes what it's weak to and everything. So that is kind of useful in some ways. Like it adds another element to it that Gigantamaxing did not, but terastalizing doesn't make the Pokemon bigger. So it's not as fun as like, here's this gigantic Pokemon that's like the size of Godzilla in front of you,
It's big now.
And then like the extra special forms that certain Pokemon have when they, have their ultimate version that you can unlock in the Sword and Shield games, which are very, very fun. Like my favorite is Garbodor, the big garbage Pokemon that like he turns into a gigantic ruined city with like airplanes and buildings sticking out of him. It's so good.
It's like the Alexander summon from Final Fantasy fell on hard times.
Yeah. So, there's also a max raid battle equivalent. Those are special fights that you can partake in by finding little layers out in the explorable map. And then you can go into those layers and you can fight them. You can do that solo with an AI team or with a local team like Dave and I will link up without being on the internet, or you can do it online with friends. They did streamline the way that you can hook up to people on the internet. Like it's not as weird and wonky where you have to go into this thing and
You don't have to use Tinder anymore?
No, now you have a union circle, which is like at the Pokemon station, and you sit in that circle and then like you can connect to other players and you can have like a friend code if you want to set a link code for just you and your buddies to run around. And I'll get back to that in a minute. And there's also picnics, which you had in Sword and Shield, But instead of making curry, as it was in the last game, you make sandwiches. Fair enough. And
Okay.
when you have a picnic, it heals your critters. This is kind of like the crafting portion of the game. And when you picnicked in Sword and Shield, it allowed you to play with your Pokemon. Like you could throw balls and have other toys and things like that, like a little cat toy and stuff, and play with your Pokemon to
Yeah.
increase your friendship level. And I actually have not done a picnic to see what happens because, like, I'm usually by a Poke Center, so I
Yeah.
haven't needed to go do a picnic. So. But that is an option for you. But again, you can group up with other people, and that's unlike Sword and Shield. Like in Sword and Shield, the last installment, you could only join up with people when you were doing a max raid battle against a stronger Pokemon in its lair, or in the Dynamax adventures and like the end game content, like the DLC. And of course, I racked up like 160 hours in Pokemon Sword because I was playing max raid battles, but then I was hanging out in that Dynamax dungeon thing forever with several people. And we were just like sitting there playing that. And that was like our chill time. We would just take an hour and go through the little dungeons once. And that would be it for that day. And like we might hang out a few times during the week and just chill on the phone and not even be talking really because we're all fried from the week and just like playing the game and chilling out. But in this game though, I don't know if they have a Dynamax Adventures equivalent because that would obviously be endgame content. They do have the max raid battles, but when you're linked up together on the map, because you can link up on the map now, you are all running around in the same area, but you cannot all battle the same Pokemon. So you can see somebody else fighting a different Pokemon, but you can't jump into that battle. You have to wait until that's over, and then you can all wander around together.
Yeah.
So that's like disappointing. And I understand why it's like that though, because it would be really hard for them to balance the game for both solo and a 4-person team to be in the same area, you know?
Right.
Like, granted, they could just load in more monsters or level up the monsters in that area or something like that. But like,
wait, but learn from years of MMO and looter shooters. That's impossible.
It's like, I mean, I'm I don't make games. This could be considered Monday morning quarterbacking. I'm also not very smart, but even just like here, a cool hook would be, all right, so somebody's fighting a Pokemon and then a buddy joins in, and this Pokemon, now that it's outnumbered, it calls for help.
Yeah.
And a Pokemon that is rarer or doesn't show up in that place more often, like comes out. So like it would be a way, like if you want to catch this thing, you have to like surprise it by coming in and outnumbering it, and then it'll call in, and then boom, there you go, you can fight it and catch it. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a good idea to me.
They do have shinies wandering around in the world. Like I caught a shiny Psyduck who's like level 5, but he's blue. So
there's some real shiny inflation happening, I think.
Yeah, I know. And anyway, like I don't give a crap about shinies. Like I don't care. I don't care. And like even just trying to fill out the entire Pokedex, like that seems like a nonsense cause to me, because that feels to me like being in Final Fantasy X and trying to do like the dodging lightning however many times to get the ultimate weapon in the desert or something, that kind of a nonsense, because some of those Pokemon are really hard to find.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to be there in certain conditions at the right time, when the stars align properly on the top of the mountain, or whatever. And it's like, okay, I don't.
Oh, Cthulhu-mon.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, like there's some parts that I don't like. There's some parts that are a little bit better. Overall, I am not as impressed with this entry as I was with Sword and Shield.
You really like Sword and Shield.
I really like Sword and Shield. And I don't know, like Dave's like, oh, well, I think I like this one better. And I'm like, really? You do? I don't know. But I don't know. I don't know. They're everybody that I talk to other than Dave is pretty much like, it's a mixed bag. I don't know how I feel about it. And me, I think I just flatly like Sword and Shield a little bit better.
Yeah.
Of course, it might grow on me as time goes on. I might like get acclimated to it, and maybe they will work out all the bugs and update it so that way it won't crash on everybody.
Yeah.
John Tethalis lost his save data in one of those various crashes. So
Here, go through the beginning of a Pokemon game again.
yeah.
I know you just did it a week ago, but do it again now.
Yeah. So, and then I have to talk about Flamigo. Okay, so
This has been sticking in your craw, hasn't it?
I have been ranting about Flamigo in any place that will pay attention to me because I have been upset about it.
So it's a flamingo who's a friend.
It's a friend Migo, friend bourbon, and like it's just a fucking flamingo. It is just a fucking flamingo, and they made it into a Pokemon, and I'm like, why is it a Pokemon? And it's just they called it Flamigo instead of Flamingo, and it made me extremely mad. And then especially because I was eating my Thanksgiving, which was tamales, and we had like a whole Mexican thing, even though none of us are Mexican, but we were having Mexican for Thanksgiving. And we were having flan for dessert. And yes, there was a vegan flan. And anyway.
Wait, flan isn't vegan?
Flan is eggs and milk.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's all eggs and milk. That's what a custard is. So yes, it's like exceptional to find a vegan flan that has a good texture and everything to match that. Because like, yes, there's vegan milks, but vegan egg substitute that works exactly like eggs do that's a
feat of chemistry.
Yeah, that is. So anyway, we were having flan, and I sat there and I was looking at my flan, and I got real mad. And then I was just like, flan migo, why didn't they make it into a flan bird? They could have. They have whatever, the Fido, the donut looking croissant puppy guy, and like so many other Pokemon that are food themed. They could have done flan migo. It's supposed to be in like a Latin American country of some type or another. And so it's like they could have made it a flan. That's all they had to do and it would have worked.
Yep.
But no, they missed this opportunity. And in Japanese, the name I forget exactly what it is, but I was looking at it, and the name seems to be a pun off of the Japanese word for collar, like kara, because I think it's kara mingo is what the name is in Japanese. Okay. And kara, among other things, can mean collar. And this particular Pokemon, it says in its description that it ties its neck up into a knot to preserve its energy in its core or something weird like that. But it has like what looks to be a little collar around its neck.
Yeah, I can see that.
As you do.
Yeah, so like the pun is there in Japanese. It didn't come over to America.
Yeah.
And so I got very mad at this thing that just looks like a fucking flamingo, and they called it a Pokemon.
No, I don't have a dog. I've got a star dog. I shaved a star into it. No, I didn't do that. It's a star dog.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm so mad about Flamingo. But I also ended up calling my coworker a Flamigo. I was like, you my flamingo, or Flamigo. I can't even say the word right now. I was like, yeah, you're my Flamigo, bro. So, because Flamigo is actually one of my strongest Pokemon at this juncture. It's a fighting type. It's a fighting type, and it's actually pretty baller. So, so that's a compliment, Tucker.
It takes so much explanation.
I know it takes so much. It's so long-winded to be like, so let me tell you why this is a good thing. Especially when I'm so salty about the name, generally speaking. Like,
yeah.
But it's actually a baller Pokemon. I do like the Pokemon for its strength, although I am very salty about the fact that it's just a flamingo.
Does it have an evolution?
No, it doesn't even evolve to anything. It's just a flamingo. It's all it is a flamingo.
That is really weird.
It doesn't become like a best flamingo or something like that?
No, it doesn't do anything. I was so mad when I saw it. I was already mad.
Forever.
But yes. I got even more salty about it when I saw that it doesn't have an evolution. I was like,
Doesn't even
really?
become a Flamigo with benefits.
Boo.
Strangle its big.
I'm fine with all of these things that Ben is saying right now. I am cool with this.
Do something, do anything with it. Just
Anything, please. Just
wring its big floppy neck and scream, "What is the point of you?"
yeah. So anyway, that's all I've got to be salty about. It's kind of sad. Both of the games that I played, I have been kind of like, you know, like I mean, Pokemon's all right. Like it's still a Pokemon game, and I am still playing it and chilling out. Although I will say I have a certain level of stress because Dave, like I am wandering because that is what I do when you give me an open world and you let me jump and run and do stuff. I'm going to look around. And so I am off exploring and looking and finding new places on the map. And Dave, meanwhile, has defeated like 3 gyms and 2 star guys and, you know, multiple Titans. And I'm like, I have like 1 Titan and 1 gym, and I haven't even gone to the Star Dude. And I mean, I've done a little bit more since then, but I was just like, Dave, oh my God, how are you doing this? Yeah, you've been playing for less time than I have. He's like, I've been beelining to the stuff. I'm like, I don't even understand how you can play like that. That's just not my play style.
It's been weird to see. I can't remember the last time I like a Pokemon game came out and it wasn't just like immediately all you heard was positive stuff. I think like the last time they kind of hit a stumbling point like this right out the gate was like maybe Black and White 2, something like that. Yeah. So it's strange to see the way that this is kind of settling in, especially after how, you know, beloved Sword and Shield were. So
yeah, and even Arceus was like generally positively received that I saw. Like a lot of people went into it going, I don't know about all this, and then ended up being like, no, this is a pretty good one. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's different, but it's cool. You know? But then this one is just like, what happened? What did you do? What did you do?
I mean, what they did was they designed for a system that was already underpowered in 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah. About time to, you know, upgrade that.
Well,
yeah.
we can move on to somebody else who has something better to talk about than Flamigo. That's not actually a freaking Pokemon.
Well, if we're counting on you stopping talking about Flamigo.
No, it's never going to happen. I'm going to be so salty. Like anybody, all you have to do to just set me off is just talk about that Pokemon. I will be very upset.
Ben, I'm going to go to you. What you been up to?
So instead of a Japanese game that takes way too long to play, I have an American game that takes way too long to play.
Which one?
And that is God of War 2, which I've continued to play since 2 weeks ago. Still a God of War game.
That's really? You usually beat these pretty quickly. How many hours would you say you have into it?
Probably like in the 20 to 30. I am like going through all the areas. In part because if you don't level up, the people are harder to kill.
Okay.
So it's kind of one of those things where I haven't tried to beeline and kind of get in a rut, but the times that I've tried to go quickly through things, I've kind of gotten more punished. So I've kind of like taken time to do all the side quests to just upgrade your gear and stuff and get enough resources so you can upgrade your gear. But yeah, it's a big and long game. I kind of stopped playing it like about a week ago or so when I started doing Thanksgiving stuff. So I literally just got back into it today. But yeah, I think I'm in the last third of the game. But there's not much to say about it except that it's very long. It's still good, quote unquote. Like it's, you know, it's a very impressive game. But it's just weird that it's not like Uncharted the first time you played it, where it's like you don't need any motivation to go through. Like you were beelining it like no problem, or you're going through it like because you're really, really enjoying it. It's not exactly like that, where it's like you see the framework, it's very apparent in the game, and so like the dialogue options kind of, or like the dialogue kind of falls on flat ears for me at least, because it's like the interruptions are so corny, and like starting and stopping conversations is so corny. I don't know. It's maybe other people are having more fun with it or are kind of more immersed into it. For me, it's kind of like you kind of see the framework of the game, and it inhibits it a little bit. The combat system's still really good. The graphics are still really amazing. It's still like setting the bar for games with respect to that. The puzzles are pretty good, and the map design's pretty good, and that's kind of what keeps me going through it, is because it's fun to explore all the areas.
Yeah.
But yeah,
like what's the big thing that they've added for combat in this one?
Probably more enemy diversity and just more bosses. Their equivalent in the last game, they had Valkyries, which were kind of like the tough boss battles that were kind of scattered throughout the map.
It's really hard to find.
In this one they don't have Valkyries. They have this thing called Berserkers, and there's basically like one per realm. They do a pretty good job of like looking at the map. There's like a legend and stuff, so you can see where all the things are that you need to go to. There's not exactly fast travel per se. There's gates, so once you get to a gate, you can kind of travel between those. But if you're not near one, you need to get to one to travel around the area if you want to fast travel. There's a whole bunch of like bigger bosses in this game compared to other games. They reuse like bosses, I guess. So like, there's like, well, I don't know. I guess I don't want to spoil, but there's like definitely like 3 archetypes that are recycled a lot, but it's fine. Like there's a completely different texture on them. Their movesets are slightly different, and they kind of like do a bit to like make them feel distinct from one another. So it doesn't feel like it's like recycled all the time. Yeah, I don't know. So like running around a map and doing stuff like checklist stuff, like kind of like making your own like to-do list, like that flow is fun. It's just that the narrative stuff is like kind of in the background and not really too engaging, I guess. I don't know. But I mean, I think it's in part because I'm putting the brakes on it and really slowing down what you can do instead of like beelining through the narrative. So I don't know. It's just really fucking bloated. It would be great if they like condense this down to like a 10-hour experience, or like release like episodic games or something like that were much more like streamlined.
I don't remember there being like grinding that you had to do in the first one. Like, yeah, you could like get upgrades and stuff, but it felt like the curve was pretty smooth, actually. It sounds like this is giving you like just a lot more pushback.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's like maybe it might even be more content in the optional areas than in like the streamlined like main branch or whatever. Yeah. So like the typical flow is you'll go to a new realm. You have the main branch that you need to go through. You do that, and then like NPCs will literally be like, well, we can go back here or we can stick around here. It's up to you. Like literally talking to you as the person playing the game. Yeah. But literally if you stick around and do all the side missions and stuff, that's more content than the actual main mission. So It's just like weird embarrassment of riches where it's like there's so much content there and you don't really want to complain about it. But I don't know. It just kind of feels like a little bit of a mess to me. It's like a beautiful mess because it's like the game's so polished and everything. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I wish anyone here had played the game so I could have like a sounding board to figure out if I'm like completely off base here or not. But
yeah. Man, we're 0 for 3 right now.
Anyway, I mean, I think I'll probably have it beat in probably like a week or two, and then I can at least speak to what the end of the story is. But yeah, again, weird. Like, I don't know if you have a PS5 and you like the first one, go ahead and play it. It's a huge ass game that you get a lot of content out of, and probably a lot of it's fun and interesting. A lot of work went into it, so it's
sure looks expensive.
It's kind of falling into the same camp as Red Dead Redemption 2, where it's like, wow, I really respect this game, but I didn't really have that much fun playing it, and it was really fucking long. But yeah, I don't know. This one, at least the combat's better. So like the like meat and potatoes of like what you're doing is still pretty fun. But anyway, whatever. Gonna move right along. A game that is much shorter and much smaller in scope, but I had a much better time playing with it, was a game that you got me, Kole, for my birthday, which was the case of the golden idol.
And then you played and beat it, and then you turned around and gifted me one for my birthday. Thank you.
Yeah. And so my meta plan with this is to have someone to talk to about the game, but you have not played this yet. Spoiler alert.
I have not. I've been we're in the winter WR, like the Western RPG kind of angle, so I've been playing Torment Tides of Numenera.
Ooh,
Okay.
yay!
Yeah. We just recorded the last episode on that today. So this came to my attention because of Will from Everything to Guppy. He wrote a review of it for the AV Club, and he said like, oh yeah, this is this is really good if you like detective kind of stuff. And I heard it compared to Oberdin. You've compared it to Oberdin as well. Tell me about it. The case of the Golden Idol.
It is good. I think it's not too hard to not spoil this game. Like it's because it's a mystery. You can talk about this game vaguely enough and still get the point across of why it's good. So the general flow of this game, it's set up into basically what's the word for it? Like tapestries almost. It's like still shots of an action shot. So it's like freeze frames of something that's surprising going on essentially, and it's not exactly a point-and-click adventure, but similar, where you can click on a bunch of different elements that are highlighted in a scene, and some of them will just be interesting pieces of information that you have to internalize, and some of them will have keywords that are underlined in red, and you can click on them to basically add to this bank of words that you have. And the game will tell you like how many words that are possible to get in your word bank in a given scene. So you might have upwards of like 30 or 40. The words could be like objects that are in the scene, like candle or lighter or like note or
man lit on fire.
Yeah. Combustion. Yeah. Or something like that. Or it could be proper nouns. So it could be like the city that you might be in or around, or names of people. And so there's basically two different games that you can switch to. Is you can switch between the scene, and you can switch between the actual puzzle of the game, which is a sort of like Mad Libs type thing that's describing what's going on in the scene, but it gets more creative than that. There will be different kind of like bespoke either like diagrams or things that you might need to fill in that you should have enough information in the scene to be able to figure out. So I will do a mild spoiler of the one of those things just to illustrate what it is without, I don't think it should be too big of a deal. For example, one level you're in a person's house, somebody has died, it possibly through poisoning of some kind, everybody's gathered around them. And if you go to the puzzle, there's a couple narratives of like of what you need to fill in to describe the scene and what's happened, and who might have been poisoned and why. And then there's also like a picture of the dinner table that everyone was sitting at, and you have to pick where everybody was sitting and like what they were eating and drinking at the dinner table. Yeah. And so in the tapestry, you can go through all the different rooms. You can go to all the individual people, like there's servants, there's like a coat rack entryway, there's like the servants' quarters, there's kitchen, and you can inspect all these things and kind of gather all these clues. And some of them are explicit, like different words in your word bank, but some of them you have to internalize and just be like, oh, they did this character doesn't like this character because of this. Okay, that could be a possible motivation. Mm-hmm. And then when you're going to like the description, it's like, I'm saying that this person killed this person because of this, and you're kind of like making your guess. The thing that makes that interesting is like you typically, depending upon the puzzle, it could be as short as like 2 words that you're filling in, which is very easy. Mm-hmm. Or it could be something upwards of like 15. And so there's a lot of different components that you have to kind of nail down. The game will only tell you when you're within 2 words of being correct.
Okay.
If you ever get to that point, you can kind of brute force it at that point and be like, okay, well, let me change this guess. Okay, it's still within 2. So this word must have been incorrect. So let me keep guessing. Yeah. Whereas like if something throws it back out, then you're like, okay, that was right. Let me explore somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So you can brute force it at that point, which I think is like a fine enough sort of thing. It's like you basically need to land close enough and then you can get it down.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't resort to that in Oberdin a couple times. Yeah.
That's totally fine, though. I think that's like a fine compromise, especially because in some of the puzzles, there might it kind of is a way. It's similar in some puzzle games where it's like you have different paths you can take to get to the same place, because to try and prevent like a single puzzle from blocking all your progress. It's kind of like that for this, where it's like there might be something where the game might not have communicated to you specifically correctly, and of no fault of your own. And so this is a way to kind of smooth that out. Anyway, the thing that I was very surprised by with this game is how strong the narrative of the game was. So the puzzle itself is good, and like, you know, they do a good enough job in like the puzzle component of the game. You can tell that it's like play tested enough that there's enough information there that you can get to the end goal. And if you are ever stuck, they do have an interesting hint system where they have like 3 different hints that they could possibly give you, possibly more depending upon the level. But the way to access that is they'll give you objects that have been in the game up until this point. Like you could be a character or an object, and you have to identify all of them. And so it kind of gives you this like meta quiz to make sure that you're learning over time of like, okay, these are the characters in the story. This is kind of what's going on, like wholesale. To help reinforce that, which is, I thought, was like a good common ground as well. And so the game like increases in difficulty steadily throughout the course of the game, where puzzles get harder and harder and harder, to the point where it's like when you start them, you're like, man, how am I going to figure all this stuff out? But you kind of slowly go through one hint at a time, and you're like, okay, I think I can figure out this section of the text, and I think I can narrow this part down. So let me put that in. Okay, and if that's true, then I think this is probably true, so I could probably figure this out. And it's a really rewarding sense of progression. So not only is the puzzle system really good, but then the narrative does a really good job of ratcheting up, especially in like the last third of the game. It kind of goes places that I was really blown away by with each new level. So that's something I was really surprised by.
I guess I like based on what I had heard of it, I didn't know that everything was kind of linked or telling like one big story.
Yes.
The fact that it's kind of adding together makes that even cooler to me, because like, I don't know, in my head when I read the pitch for it, it's kind of sounded like, oh, they made a game out of like the non-action like courtroom mini games from Danganronpa, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't have that basis of familiarity, but I believe you.
Yeah, the final thing that you do in a case is like kind of reassemble. Like, okay, you do the parlor room, the parlor scene, and just take everything as like, okay, you were here and this has happened, kind of filling in the blank kind of thing. I thought it was just a bunch of those. The fact that it's kind of working together sounds rad as hell.
Yeah, and it should be like pretty apparent, like within the first like 3 or 4, that everything's kind of connected. They do a good job of like doing a lot of good visual storytelling, where it's like at time you'll be completing like diagrams that might be like a family tree or something like that, where it literally forces you to kind of learn what's going on visually. I was very surprised by it. It was a great gift, so thank you for that.
I'm happy you enjoyed it.
Yeah, so I don't have too much more to say to it. I'll probably have more to say when you play it, because we could talk about it and maybe compare and contrast some things. But it's definitely recommended. I think it's like $20 on Steam. I would say it's worth it, but it is like a shorter experience, so it's maybe like 4 to 8 hours, I would say. I think I beat it around 8.
Less than the time that I've been playing Persona 5 Royal and getting nowhere.
But yeah, for me, I definitely enjoyed it, and I definitely respected a whole bunch, because it feels very unique, or like a new twist on like at least like a 90s style game. So I was very impressed by it. So
yeah, I need to see if this is Steam Deck approved, because that sounds like it would be a very good fit for the Steam Deck. Yeah,
that's all I got.
Cool. Let's see, David, how about you?
Yeah, honestly, I don't have a whole lot. I've been continuing on with Kenshi. I got to the point where my main character has become a master of martial arts, which has a really weird kind of power curve to it, where you start out just incredibly weak. And then I'm now to the point where I'm like literally punching people's arms off and winning fist fights with dinosaurs.
Doesn't sound too different than like a D&D 3rd edition monk.
That's true. It gets to the point where basically the only real weakness you have is when you're unarmed, you're only using the dodge mechanic, and that has really long animation times. So if you're fighting a group of enemies, you can just get locked into the dodge animation and never have a chance to attack. So that's really the only weakness, but because of that, I decide, well, I guess I need to get some friends to, help me with, group battles and tank and stuff like that. So I've kind of gotten now into more the, I guess you could say, sort of real-time strategy elements of the game.
You're delegating.
I'm delegating, exactly. So I went and recruited a whole bunch of dudes. I've got a guy named Crumble John, who is basically this. The names are weird. Who is basically this old, like, retired samurai that used to be a super badass, but now, like, his bones are crumbling, hence the name.
Okay.
And these are all, there's both generic recruits and unique recruits. These are all unique recruits, which I recruited because they have some dialogue that's specific to them. The next guy was Infinite Wing Wang.
Obviously.
Are these random names, or are you naming these?
No, these are all set names.
All right.
So, which is fun because his main weird thing is he was actually a test character. He was the very first recruitable character added to the game.
Okay.
But you get to him, and he insists that in order to hire him, you need to pay him like $100,000, which is actually, I could kind of afford it by this point, but normally would be a ton. And so you have this negotiation, which is just completely ridiculous. So, for example, I think I opened by saying, that's preposterous. I could buy at least 10 Infinite Wing Wangs for that much. And eventually, threatening to change his name after I recruit him, and just, I don't know, his whole thing is just, he is very strong guy.
Okay.
I got Shrike, who is a bounty hunter, who that's, I don't know, just, she's fairly generic, I guess. And then I recruited Beep, who is a non-human. He is a stick, kind of a walking stick person.
What?
Yeah, so there's a couple of non-human races, and one of them are called Hivers, who are this hive mind of kind of walking stick bug people.
Okay.
And this particular one was, thrown out of his hive mind because he, or they, I guess, appears to believe that they are a robot.
The tone of this game is not what I imagined it was based on the visuals and what I read about it.
It's very unique. The game itself is pretty serious, but it takes kind of the tone of, as a result of living in the apocalypse, all of the characters are kind of crazy.
You've got a lot of time.
It's got some like Fallout New Vegas Wild West vibes, it feels like.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very much. I think my favorite happenstance so far is as you're wandering around, depending on who you have in the party and what's going on, they'll have various conversations.
Okay.
and a lot of it is like commentary on the where you actually are at. So one of the other character I recruited is Gecko, who is a robot, or what the game calls a skeleton.
Okay.
And they tend to, they're mostly pre-apocalypse. So, he'll comment on like some of the original purposes for the ruins you're walking past and stuff.
Okay.
But my favorite so far is after one of the battles, Beep started, talking about how all of the, now that he is a great champion, all of the things he wants to do and, wants to, find treasure and, be famous. And then, wants to meet a beautiful human lady.
Okay.
And you quickly realize that he's completely unaware that half of the party he's traveling with is human women.
Oh, he's got kind of like a Zoidberg kind of thing going.
Yeah. He halfway through the conversation, he just asks, wait, how many of you are female? Which, considering is in a, non-binary hive race, makes sense. But, other than that, the main interesting thing I found is actually how consequential the different races are.
Okay.
So, for example, robots don't need to eat. So, it's real easy to... I basically took my robot and, set them up with all the things they needed to just power grind the armor crafting skill, and just left them there while I went adventuring because they weren't going to get hungry.
There's no other like energy source that you need for them.
Right, exactly. They're big. The one kind of contrapoint to that is whenever they take damage, they can only heal part of it until you take them to like a repair bench and get them repaired.
Okay.
But as long as they're not in combat, they can go indefinitely.
Okay.
But like the other thing is one of the two main existing, factions in the apocalyptic world is basically a xenophobic, misogynistic theocracy.
Yeah, you talked about this last time. Yeah.
Right. And so it's not safe for skeletons, robots to travel through their land at all. They'll be attacked on sight. And if the only way that non-humans can travel through is if they're escorted by humans. And even in that case, if the human in question is female, there's a pretty good chance that like guards and stuff will hassle you.
Okay.
And basically try to convince you that to give up the your non-human allies for quote unquote re-education, which is basically just slavery.
Are these the bad guys of the setting? Or I guess there is no overall story, so
right, there is no overall story. Like taking them down is my end game goal for this,
right?
So yeah, that's currently what I'm building up to.
Okay.
It actually would probably at this point, if I wanted to do it as a stealth operation, I could probably just go and assassinate their leader. But I think it's going to be more fun to, do a daring raid.
The fact that this game has no overall story makes me more intrigued by it. Like, adds to the jankiness of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm also continually finding out weird things. Like, I didn't realize if you're doing, nefarious, robbing shops at night, it's harder for guards to hear you if you shut the door after you go in. Things like that. So yeah, there's just continuously, just small little mechanics like that. Are
those things telegraphed at all, or do you just have to know that that's how it works?
You pretty much just have to know. I found out because it's in a loading screen message.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
that's how a lot of this, how you figure out a lot of it, honestly.
Mm.
But yeah. So it's good. I'm debating now. I think my next thing I'm going to do is maybe this is a little morbid, but try to get Beep to lose some limbs in battle so I can have them replaced by cybernetics.
You're going to your enemy within him.
Right. Because, and also because then he gets new dialogue because he becomes Cyber Beep.
Weird. This sounds like a weird game.
Yeah, I would describe it kind of as like Samurai Punk.
Okay.
So, it's a Ghost of Tsushima style, samurai action movie, kind of through the lens of like a steampunk, diesel punk, that sort of thing.
That's funny because I can't think of anything less punk than a samurai.
What about Ninja?
I mean, even they, I don't know. I don't know enough to say it, but I definitely know samurai, not punk.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not gonna gatekeep punk, but
but yeah. Other than that, just doing some base building. I've got a massive industrial operation set up. So it gets some kind of satisfactory type things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that's honestly about it. That's all I've really been playing.
Cool. Well, it sounds involved.
Oh yeah.
I've got some. They're going to be quick because the big one is one that we have talked about before. I've been streaming Signalis.
Okay.
The survival horror game came out recently. You're playing as this android who is looking for somebody important to them in the remains of this seemingly haunted kind of work camp in this sci-fi dystopia that spans that spans a star system, and I really dig it. Of the throwback survival horror games, I've played many of them. People who watch the streams know this is definitely up there with like, oh yeah, the mechanics on this are super sound. They found a very good way to kind of modernize that while still making it feel like an old survival horror game, right down to the inventory limitations, the incredibly limited ammo and healing resources, neat puzzles from picking stuff up and going back and forth. And I would even say this is a very beautiful game. This by looking at kind of screenshots, it's not going to come through. I think for me, the aesthetic of it really sold itself when I saw it in motion with myself controlling it and realizing, oh, this isn't sprite work. This is one of the best 3D to sprite looking filters I have seen.
That is actually was the thing I was about to ask is, I couldn't tell if it was 3D or sprites.
So it's 3D because like when you go into the memories and you're doing the first person stuff.
That's right. That's right.
It's so what's happening is they have everything in very simple. Everything is in very simple 3D rendering kind of stuff, and it has very flat textures on it. And they've run some kind of filter where everything is always kept at pixel scale. Kind of, so you don't end up with like these weird little half and half cases or something like a short hike, which I find kind of hard to look at because, that pixelation filter, it's kind of like a Photoshop filter that refreshes every couple of every frame. There have bof games that I've just straight up not been able to play. Because they have used an inelegant filter. The fact that they have taken all of these different modes, like even into the hand-drawn cinematics, even into when they have like Metal Gear style like in-engine cutscenes with the folks. Like everything is kept like to the correct resolution, which means that all of the menu text and all of the like text of stuff in the world, the propaganda posters, just like stays crisp and looking really good. It's such a dorky thing to like say, oh, this game looks amazing. They have a great pixelation filter, but this is such an easy thing to screw up, and like I kind of want to see them give a GDC talk about like how they did this. I wouldn't understand any of it, but they very obviously cared a lot about that pipeline to keep everything consistent. What makes me, not completely like, oh my gosh, this is game of the year, aside from Elden Ring, this is game of the year, is the fact that they've demonstrated these chops. They have, mined a whole bunch of old survival horror games and pulled up mechanics and pulled up fun little, kind of gimmicks and puzzles and things. Like they clearly have a lot of affection for the older games in the genre. My problem is they have way too much affection for the older games in the genre. When you start playing, like after the short little intro, your character starts in a rundown bathroom looking at her face in the mirror.
Ooh.
The other
is
like
that a thing from another game?
That's the way Silent Hill. That's the way Silent Hill 2 begins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There is a prominent kind of like another female, there's another replicant that you find, and she's like a real sad lady who you find her looking at a knife that she's holding, so Silent Hill 2, it's just like just like that. Like they do the Silent Hill Otherworld kind of like rusty chain area. There's like a do you want to crawl through the hole thing that they pull from Silent Hill 4. There's a lot of jumping down holes. It's just like they're doing these things, and I do not want to say that they are incapable of original thought, because obviously they're very good. My problem is they've demonstrated that they have the chops to not just kind of like echo all this stuff. It goes beyond, which what I'm sure they would say is like, oh yeah, this is loving homage, right? And it's just like you're doing an awful lot, and especially a lot at the beginning. Like it comes across real sweaty. Like, hey guys, remember this thing you like? Please stick around, please play this game. Like, oh, you guys are you're too good for that. Please.
Yeah, maybe like spread your inspiration out and have more than one.
Yeah. So like I'm really enjoying it, and the story is going places, and it's doing fun reality breakdown kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm just kind of worried that I'm going to get to the end, and then it's just like, what else are they going to pull? Like, is it going to try and stick some other game's landing when they could have stuck their own? Does that make sense? Am I making?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, it's neat. Like, I would say play it, but any questions about Signalis, David? I know that you had played at least some of it.
So how does the like chase mechanics and those sorts of things compare to the games it's inspired by?
The chase mechanics.
Well, just so the big thing I wasn't sure of with it is I had a hard time telling like how much I was supposed to be running from enemies, and when. In effect, I guess, when I was kind of cheesing things versus, when it was, the intended way to approach things, stuff like that.
Yeah, it doesn't communicate to you very clearly, like, what the expectation is. So what you're supposed to be doing is, if it is at all possible to dodge and weave, to, get past something, do not waste ammo on it. If it is an enemy that happens to be like right outside of a safe room or in kind of a thoroughfare that you're going to be crossing very frequently, you want to kill it. And preferably, if you have any of the thermite, use the thermite to keep it from getting back up again. It won't. Sure. It will not do a Crimson Head thing where it gets up and it becomes stronger. But it just, you don't want to waste the ammo. as it goes, or, like by having it come back. Okay, I've got to shoot it again. That's 3 more handgun bullets, 1 more shotgun bullet down the line, right? So like, yeah, you're supposed to be doing an awful lot of like luring an enemy like over to one side of a hallway, juking it so it goes into an attack animation, and then running by.
So
good.
What do you use your ammo for then, if not to kill those things?
I mean, for emergencies. If you end up using a lot of it, it's just like that kind of conservation of running by whatever you can makes it so that you can you have anything left over for when something big comes at you, or when you get cornered, when something's unexpected, because there are like enemies who will they're not apparent. So one thing that's different about this is it is played from kind of a top-down perspective. Kind of deal, like not fully like top down like Zelda, but it's like a 3/4. But you see more of the screen than you would if you were playing over the shoulder, or if you were playing a classic survival horror game and there was a fixed camera angle kind of deal. So like if you walk into a room and there's nobody, you think, okay, I'm safe. In an older survival horror game like a Resident Evil, you might round a corner and boom, there's a zombie standing there. It's a big kind of reveal. There are enemies in this that will like pop up from under the floor panels there, and they may corner you, so you want to have ammo around to fire at them, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but that's what you're supposed to be doing, to answer your question.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So are you going to still stream this weekend then?
Yeah, I think I have about 1 session left. We are spoiled for like good stuff to stream, because I'm going to be doing, I believe after that I'm going to do the Devil Inside. Yeah, the new Dark Picture, and then Callisto Protocol is coming out. So
yeah.
Cool. One of the other games I've been playing, I've got 2 more. Again, it's going to be pretty short. The other game I've been playing is it's a VR game called Bonelab.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Is this like Boneworks or related to that at all?
I don't know what Boneworks is.
I thought that was a sweet shooting VR game.
Weird. No, okay, no. So Boneworks is a similarly titled but different game. Oh wait, awesome. No. Wait, but okay, so Boneworks made by the same team. This is weird. Experimental physics VR adventure. Okay, so that seems to be a I'm confused now. It's the same studio. Regardless, VR game, playing it on the Quest. This is kind of like Gary's Mod, but for VR, where it is, first person, entirely physics based. There are different modes where you can spawn stuff in and just kind of fuck around, but there's also a whole bunch of like single player content that they've put in, where there's like a mission that you're doing. Like you start out in the medieval realm, and like the first thing that happens is like you're being hung, and then somebody cuts you loose and you fall into the sewers and you're fighting skeletons and stuff. And it turns out it's like a Westworld thing where you're behind the scenes and going in there. But this is like just full on first person shooter. Like we're modeling the guns. You have any number of melee weapons, including a crowbar. That you want, and there's the story. There are also some like pre-made kind of like mini games, so like a little tactical run course. There are like arenas that you play. The most nauseating one is the parkour. This is a VR game. I like playing it as a little bit of a test, because this is a VR game that does not have the teleport to move thing, which I absolutely have needed before. I've gotten used to moving around with the analog stick. Well, I mean, just the mismatch of the visuals. My legs aren't moving, but I'm speeding across this area, and then the parkour things where I'm like doing monkey bars and like clinging to the walls, climbing stuff, and I look down and it seems like if I drop, I'm going to die. But I know I'm standing in my living room and my cat is looking at me from the couch, like, what the fuck? Yeah. So
Which cats have no room to complain, freaking staring out at nothing.
yeah. But it's neat. Like it's, like I got to a point like in the story, you just reach the big lab and it's like, hey, go play the mini games or whatever. And I just had fun, like, 10 minutes at a time, like bringing up the different difficulties of the arena combat and being like, all right, I'm going to see how the axe does. Oh, I'm doing cool axe stuff. Like, oh, these skeletons throw fireballs now. The shotgun is really difficult. Oh yeah, now I understand. Like this one's semi-automatic. This one you have to pump. A bunch of stuff like that. It's real fun to kind of just like fuck around with a game that has physics in VR, So I've been enjoying it. I don't know how to get like the cool custom stuff onto it. Like there's a way to download mods and actually get like user generated content into it. I don't know how to do that because the Quest headset is just baffling to me. It's this weird little walled garden that is kind of annoying, but it's a good time. Yeah, Bonelab.
They're really creating the Bone universe with their game entries.
Yeah, so I think Boneworks might be like one that they did with. It might be one that they did with like Steam. It might be index only. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the only difference I could see between the two is it's Windows only for that one, but then this one's the Quest and Windows for Bonelab.
Gotcha. Yeah. And the final one, it's not so much something that I'm enjoying as a game, but I picked up Atari 50. This is a big compilation game that was put out recently for Atari's 50th anniversary. It has a bunch of old Atari games emulated. There are also like remakes of like just like modern interpretations made by the studio that put this together, Digital Eclipse, studio that does a bunch of like retro update kind of things. But what is really dragging me in is the fact that this is like less of a video game collection, which you can play it like that if you want to, but it is almost like a little interactive museum. So you go in and it starts at the founding of Atari, and then it's broken down by era and it's broken down by topic. And you like
cool.
Go along and read these, info cards like about the story of Atari and the ins and outs of, kind of how that went, while also looking at like high resolution scans of like advertisements and manuals and boxes and stuff, like documents if they're useful, and especially cool like videos of people talking, like videos of like documentary interviews. Just like one of the earliest ones that you see is just like they got a whole bunch of game developers together to like tell the version of the story where the guy, the first Pong machine, the bar owner thought that it was broken and called him out like, hey, fix this thing. But it wasn't broken. It was so people liked it so much that it filled up with quarters and it wouldn't work.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah. But it's like you get Tim Schafer and like just a bunch of other people like telling what they remember of it. And it's edited together in such a way where like they say, oh, I think it's something. And then like the actual people who were there would say like, oh yeah, it was in Sunnyvale. It was Andy Caps. Just like that kind of thing, putting it together. It's like a super well put together like history, which I don't know if it's like a game. Like Atari games, there's charm there for it, but I'm not like clamoring to play combat, I'll always be down for a little bit of Haunted House. That's a good game. But this thing is like clearly put together with so much access to people and so much affection for it that like it's pretty hard not to like just kind of be over the moon with like, oh, I want one of these for like every company.
So do they tell you anything about the greatest Atari game, which is Joust?
I haven't gotten to Joust yet, so I can't tell you.
That would for me it would be speedrun to Joust and just I wouldn't make any farther.
Oh, and then just play Joust? Yeah.
Yep.
Nope, haven't gotten there just yet. That's a little bit further down the line because I'm really taking my time watching all the documentary stuff. Like I've never seen a game that is like that. The closest that I've gotten is like,
Stanley
I don't know.
Parable?
I mean, like Stanley Parable has a museum in it. Like the closest that I could say is like Namco Museum, but even that is just like compilations of arcade games, and maybe there's some like really low resolution like scanned art that they have in there, like where you can't read anything. But like this is like, I don't know, like full graphic design. Like here's one of the original business cards from when Atari was called Zizagy. Like
isn't the sequel to Stanley Parable basically this?
No, there's no sequel to Stanley Parable that I know of.
I thought he made some other game.
Are you trying to goad David into playing the DLC for Stanley Parable?
Oh, they did the updated Ultimate Remake kind of thing that has. Yeah, no, this is different. This isn't like you walking around a physical space. This is like, I don't even know what to say. Like it's an interactive like magazine or an interactive like art book kind of deal. Like it is a very difficult thing to categorize to categorize, because I don't know if I've seen anything exactly like it, but it is charming as all hell. It's really good.
Hooray!
Nice. And that's me. That's all I've got. That sounds like a segment, unless there are any questions. That sounds like a segment.
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and then you answer it. Jala, what is the question that you asked the nice folks?
I asked, what's your oldest and optionally, what's your fondest gaming memory?
Yeah. I'll get started here with Phil. He says, I remember playing Missile Command on the Atari 2600. When you lose the game, you can hear the sound of a large missile about to hit, and my siblings and I would jump behind the sofa or run out of the room before it exploded.
Yeah.
That could get really loud, actually. Missile Command didn't mess around.
No.
During the Cold War, they wanted to instill that in children.
Yeah.
Consequences.
Why do we have these school desks at home? Missile Command. Yeah. David, what does David say?
David says, getting a Game Gear with the Power Rangers movie game. The one with Ivan Ooze and a climactic fight on the moon. I must have played that game 100 times as a kid. Rest in peace, Jason David Frank.
Yep.
Oh, the Green Ranger, he passed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, is that who that was?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, that was very recently. I was seeing eulogies for him on Twitter.
Yeah, he actually lived in Houston too.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Huh. Ben, what does Jeremy say?
Jeremy says, playing Duck Hunt with a friend. That damn dog always making fun of us.
Yeah, Duck Hunt. That's a really memorable one because of that gun. Trust me.
Because that dog. I was so mad at that dog. I was like, I thought we were buds, bud. Like, what you doing? Aren't you supposed to be on my side?
Yeah, you don't disrespect me in front of the ducks. Let's see. Jala, what does Ricky say?
Ruki says, my fondest memory is of the first time I played Super Mario Brothers and being amazed that the world continued beyond the edges of my TV. I had played video games before, including the original Mario Brothers, and I was unimpressed. I still remember my cousin's sales pitch for the game. This one's different. It's super.
They wouldn't lie about that.
Not wrong. Not wrong.
I cannot spot the lie. John says, playing Street Fighter 2 with my brother. He managed to beat the arcade mode when he was 4, which is incredible because I struggle to beat that now. Kid patience and kid reflexes. Yeah. David, what does Greg say?
Greg says, my fondest was getting a NES for Christmas in 1987 when I was 11. I was totally shocked by getting this as though I had seen the commercials and mentioned to my parents a couple of times it looked good. I never seriously expected to get one. I had a Commodore 64 computer and an Atari, I cannot read today, I'm sorry, 2600 still, and my parents have never been supportive of my gaming. So when I opened the box that had the control deck with SMB, along with copies of Top Gun and Pinball. My parents said they were the only other games in the store. I was over the moon. Best Christmas ever.
Yeah. I believe it. Yeah. You can really tell like the average age cohort of our listeners by this, which is fun. Ben, what does Gwen say?
Gwen says, I was 2 years old and I played a game on Atari 2600. It was 1992. That was a plane going through barns. Didn't know the name until I started working at a retro game shop and realized it must be Barnstorming.
Barnstorming is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was like Activision made all the best Atari games because they kind of had they got all the good engineers. Yeah, Barnstorming's great. Yeah. Jala, what does Jack say?
Jack says, my favorite game on the Intellivision was a Scorched Earth-esque top-down tank game. My dad and I would play that every weekend when I was 4 years old. One of a few fond memories of my parents. Cut 2 years later to 1988, and my mom bought my dad a Nintendo for Christmas. I don't think I stopped playing Legend of Zelda for 3 days, and my dad's video game interest was sunk forever.
Yeah. I wonder if he thought that it got too complicated with Zelda. Because that's what happened with my dad. It's like, oh, it never should have gotten more than Tetris. But yeah. Nice. Eli says, going to my great aunt's house. Her daughter had a PlayStation 1, and I was properly obsessed. The memories are hazy. I was maybe 4 or 5, but I'm certain I immediately became as annoying as hell about what I wanted for Christmas that year. However, going into the earliest specific memory, though, I'm reminded of messing around in Abject Suffering alumni Jersey Devil. I like to think my tastes have improved since then. Yeah, Jersey Devil's not good. That's not a good platformer.
Well, I mean, depending upon what you had access to back then, I mean...
Catch as catch can, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some games that I played and I rented a lot from the video store, and it's like, they were not good games, but it was like the only game I could rent, and I could only rent one thing, and it's like a movie or a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, trust me, one of the first games I got with my PlayStation was Croc, and I played the hell out of Croc. Not because I liked it. It was actually very awkward to control.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's just what you do. No Game Pass. Let's see. David, what does Alex say?
Alex says, the first video game I can remember playing by myself is Visible Solar System on a Commodore 64 when my parents were visiting friends of theirs. I played a bunch of 2600 and Commodore 64 games. I remember Omega Race particularly. When I started seeing NES games, it was such a revelation compared to those first and second gen consoles. Super Mario Bros. And Legend of Zelda, Metroid were so mysterious and huge, with all kinds of secrets compared to everything else. Played so many computer games and libraries. I remember Logo Doodles and Rocky's Boots and Oregon Trail on the Apple II. And remember watching someone in the library playing Ultima 3 and it seeming so insanely complicated to my 5-year-old brain.
Yeah. I don't know. Logo Doodles, I think that was like making drawings through programming languages. I know Logo was...
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Oh, man. Lots of good stuff there. Ben, what does Callum say?
Callum says playing Asteroids and California games on Atari 2600 console.
California games on the 2600 is really interesting because it had, I mean, this was rampant on the 2600, just using music that they absolutely didn't have the rights to. Like, you would win a game and then it would just play the chorus of Louie Louie. But in Atari, so it'd be like, dun, 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 dun. You guys didn't pay. You didn't do it. Jala, what does Kyle say?
Kyle says, Gauntlet 2 on DOS. It was good that my cousin and I were 4 years old because fitting both of us, my dad and my uncle, on a single keyboard for multiple controls would have been tough with full-size humans.
Yeah, I think about that when I see any PC game that has 2-player controls on one keyboard. Like, oh, awkward. And I'll finish this off here with Douglas, who says, let's see here. One time I had my cousin come out to visit one year, and he brought with him Final Fantasy for the NES. We spent the next 2 weeks trying to finish the game. Yeah. Neat. Mine is probably the least original there ever is. I was born into a house that had an NES in it. I believe that they had gotten it from my brother, and he would play it, and I remember like sitting on on the upper bunk, like cheering him on, and then begging him to keep on playing when he'd stop because he was doing it to entertain me. Super Mario Brothers or whatever. Yeah, so. Pretty basic, but he didn't like that I did that. It became a whole thing. David, how about you?
I think the earliest I remember was probably Dragon Warrior for the NES.
Okay.
That was the first RPG I had ever played, and I don't know, just the entire world, and that concept of being in an adventure instead of just reading about one or watching it on TV, as that sort of thing was really, really huge to me. And I loved that I don't know, I'm one of the weird people. I loved the illustrations and stuff for the American version of the game and the manual, even though I think most fans consider those to be kind of travesties.
Oh, it's not the Toriyama,
right?
Mm-hmm.
No. Nice. Ben.
Yeah, I think one of my earliest memories is me and my brother were playing through Super Mario 3, and there was like one Friday I came home from whatever school or daycare I was at, and my brother had beaten the castle where there's like a cutscene of Mario like holding a wand and falling, and my mom like cried when that happened, and so as a kid I was like, wow, games can be so like impactful and beautiful, and then now I realize like, oh wow, my mom was going through a divorce at the time. So
wow.
It was impactful nonetheless. So.
Bleak.
That took a turn I was not expecting.
Sorry to laugh so gleefully, but that is I didn't expect it to go.
They all got over it. It's all good.
And Jala, round us out.
Okay, so the oldest, as I mentioned in the beginning when we were in the banter section, was playing Atari with my dad. It was Wizard of War, WOR. Go look at that game. That's the one that I remember. It's got some like the sounds in there are pretty hectic. But anyway, my fondest memories, I've got a couple. The first one is when I was dating a guy and we would play Capcom versus SNK 2. And basically in that game, you can assign points to the character or characters that you pick, and you can pick up to 3 characters. So we each picked one character and went through the game fighting the AI like on the max settings. And the best score that either one of us was able to achieve was the score that we achieved together, playing together, even though, he was like a fighting game whiz and all of that. Like his best score was still the one with me fighting with him. And that was pretty cool. So that made me feel good. The other thing is just derping around with friends in like old original Guild Wars, and then also in Guild Wars 2 back in the early days. That was a lot of fun too. There were a lot of late nights and early mornings playing stuff, and I was really involved in the Guild Wars 2 community. I was like moderator for one of the communities, and working with a podcast at that time. Just like getting information about the beta and all of that, and working on articles and stuff. So anyway, those are probably my favorite memories of playing games.
Yeah, this is a nice kind of like on ramp into like Christmas holiday times, nostalgia, warm fuzzy stuff.
Yeah, that was kind of the goal. And I just wanted something that wasn't, what's your favorite holiday game? We've covered that before. What's your favorite winter game? Like, okay, like, what's your favorite winter? No, like, let's not be directly on the nose. Listen,
yes,
adjacent.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Thank you for posting it up, Jala, and thank you everybody for answering. If you would like to participate in these in the future, go to facebook.com/The Level Podcast and watch for the prompts to go up on Monday afternoons.
The End Boss.
Now it is time for The End Boss, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games that are exciting to us. Jala, gonna start with you. What veteran video game creator is working on something new?
Takaya Imamura, who worked on F-Zero and Starfox as an artist, is making a new text adventure game adaptation of his new manga Omega 6. Screenshots show that it is going to be like a 16-bit style game. He left Nintendo last year after 3 decades with the company.
Wow.
And the new game is going to be released on the Switch in 2023 and will feature an original story based on the manga. The manga follows 2 bounty hunters, Thunder and Kyra, as they search for a new planet to replace Earth. The manga is currently only available in French, so if you speak French, good for you. Otherwise, sorry. The game is being developed by Japanese company Happy Meal. I could not find any further information on that studio because, as you might imagine, Googling Happy Meal pulls McDonald's results.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I mean, the screenshots that I see look pretty cool, and I am always kind of down for one of those first-person graphic adventure kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Neat. Let's see. Ben, what's going to be coming out?
Yeah, this is just a thing that's coming out as the time of you're listening this. It is Marvel's Midnight Suns. It's made by Firaxis. It's by the people who did the XCOM games. So it's the first game that they've done since XCOM 2, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's a licensed game since it's like has Marvel characters in it, and it's a deck builder. So basically this is like all Dennis in like a variety of ways, but it should be just a fun game overall. So I'm excited about it. But
I am really curious about this, but I'm very worried that I've heard basically nothing, and it's coming out today.
Wait, no, I thought it's coming out the December 2nd. Is that not true?
Oh, I mean, when this episode comes out.
Oh, yes,
you had
yes.
it right the first time. Yeah,
that's right. Today.
Yes. Everything about this sounds pretty cool to me. It's just I want to do tactical role playing with a superhero team. I don't know. Maybe my worry is unfounded.
Just worried by the lack of buzz,
or like pre-release content kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Again, game previews have been real weird. For the past couple of years, like ever since COVID, nobody goes to like see stuff now. I'm curious about it though. That's coming out the same day as Callisto Protocol, actually.
Yeah, also excited about that.
I've got one. This is less okay. So a thing is going to happen. We just don't know when. The hardest version of Tetris is going to be coming to consoles in America for the first time. This is Tetris the Grandmaster. It is an arcade version of Tetris that was made and released over in Japan. By just study the publishing history of Tetris and figure out how that landed there and why it was different and why they were allowed to do that. Wild times. But it is considered to be like the tournament version, like not the one that's used in like the Tetris World Tournament, that's NES, but like for like big high scoring, like I'm going to play some like really, really just offensive Tetris. They're doing it on Tetris the Grandmaster. That has never actually come to America before. Its sequels have, but none of them have been as like brutal as this one is. And I'm curious to fire it up. It's being put out as part of the the arcade. Oh gosh, the arcade archives, which has been putting stuff out. Like if you pay attention to games that come out on the Switch, one of these comes out every week. So we'll eventually get one here at some point.
I feel like the hardest version of Tetris is all skew Tetronimo mode.
all what?
It's the shape that I don't know how you name it. It's the one where it's like two blocks that are offset.
Oh, so okay, so it's not alternate. Well, I guess okay, we're getting down to like mathematical. It is technically is it if you get all the S or all the Z, or is it if it alternates S and Z intermittently that you end up getting an unwinnable game? I think it's if it alternates.
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to go take a look at it.
We can write a math paper about it and publish it next week.
Yes. We'll get right on it. And David, how about you? You got a story?
Yeah, so this is kind of just a general thing that's happening. Elite Dangerous had a new update today, and the aliens that have kind of been the enemies, in the game for the last couple years are finally attacking. In previous expansions, the humans tried to build a super weapon, and that pissed the aliens off. So now they are actually invading inhabited space.
That sounds sweet.
Apparently they're setting up this system where, players that are the combat side of things, of course, can, fight the aliens, while players who do more the, star trader and, smuggler and those sorts of roles will be running humanitarian missions or, trying to blockade run refugees past the invading aliens, stuff like that.
That's cool.
So it sounds pretty cool.
Not bad.
Yep.
Yeah. It feels like they like it was like years ago that people said, "Hey, I found this weird thing that looks alien." Like kind of out here. Like, no, there's no aliens in Elite Dangerous. No, there are. Now there are. How do you all feel about buttoning it up?
Buttons.
The credit.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to level number 437. We really appreciate you taking the time. You know what to do to help out the show, subscribing and telling your friends and doing the multiplayer stuff. You know how to support a podcast. Jala, what's going on over at Jala-chan's place that is in addition to what you mentioned at the beginning with the episode with Dennis talking about Deck of Wonders?
Yeah, so the next episode that will be coming up is going to be about disability and ableism, and it includes a member of the joint Jala-chan / Duckfeed community on that episode that's coming out on December the 9th.
Cool.
Also, the last episode that was a topical episode was about being a first-generation American. So that's me talking about being the weirdo, being the odd one out in pretty much every group that I'm in, and also having a couple of guests on as well, talking about their experiences in their environments. So
nice. And that's over at Jala-chan.place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm trying to think of other stuff. Yeah, that's about it. So I've been Kole Ross. You can catch my streams on Twitch at Duckfeed.tv.
I'm David Maismith. I'm still here.
I'm Jala-chan in every place that I might be found.
And I'm Ben Merkel.
And stick around for some titles.
Neither did I, so
okay.
I'm defaulting to buttons.
Okay. Buttons. Default buttons. I like it.
Okay.
Panic wrote down one title halfway through the episode, and that was Bone Universe, but that's a self-indulgent offering.
Gotta indulge in the bones.
I have the option to Hulk and the Weedle in the Weeds.
I like the Weedle.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Sounds very poetic.
Yeah. Let's do the Weedle in the Weeds.
Yay!
Yay. It is decided.